You ever notice how you get paid and within a few days you're already thinking about what's left instead of what you made? Not because you spend it all, but because most of that money was already spoken for. The second it hits your account, it starts getting divided. Rent pulls from it, bills pull from it. Your normal habits take small pieces over and over without ever feeling like a big decision. And nothing about that feels like losing money. It just feels like life continuing. But if you slow it down, you'll notice something uncomfortable. You're not really deciding where your money goes. You're just watching it follow a routine that was already in motion. So the question isn't, where did my money go? It's, when did I lose control over where it goes? What money actually is and why it feels complicated. Money feels like something you're supposed to understand, but most people don't interact with what money is. They interact with what money does. You use it, you move it, you check it, but you rarely stop to think about what you're actually dealing with. Because in everyday life, money doesn't behave like a simple thing. It behaves like a network. The number you see in your account isn't just a number. It's a reflection of agreements. Agreements between you and your job, between you and the bank, between you and every system that expects to be paid. So when money comes in, it doesn't arrive as something neutral. It arrives already connected to everything around you. Rent isn't just a bill. It's a system you're a part of. Subscriptions aren't just small payments. They're ongoing permissions you've given. Even your income, that's not just money earned. That's time converted into something that immediately becomes claimable by everything else. That's why money feels complicated. Not because the math is hard, but because it's tied to structure you don't see directly. You don't feel the same system. You feel the pressure it creates. You feel the timing, the expectations, the constant need for money to keep moving. So everything else keeps functioning, and the more your life grows, the more connections your money has, more obligations, more automatic outflows, more things depending on it. So managing money isn't just managing a number, it's navigating a system that's already in motion, whether you think about it or not. Which is why it's easy to feel like you're behind, even when you're doing everything right, because you're not just dealing with money, you're dealing with everything attached to it. Your life expands faster than your income. You think making more money would create space, but it doesn't. It just changes what your money gets used for. Because the moment your income increases, your definition of normal shifts with it. Not all at once, in small, reasonable upgrades. You start ordering instead of cooking. You choose convenience over waiting. You replace things earlier instead of stretching them. Nothing extreme, nothing irresponsible, just slightly better across everything. And that's where the shift happens. Because those small upgrades don't stay temporary, they settle in quietly. And once something feels normal, your brain stops questioning it. It doesn't register as extra spending anymore. It registers as how life is supposed to be. So the thing that happened to your last paycheck happens again. Your money gets divided across a slightly more expensive version of your life. And here's the part people don't notice. Your income went up, but your leftover space didn't, because every increase in money was matched by an increase in what your life now requires. Not what you choose once, but what you maintain automatically. So you don't feel richer, you just feel adjusted. And the cycle continues. Not because you're making bad decisions, but because your baseline keeps moving faster than you realize. Spending doesn't feel like spending. Most of your money doesn't live in decisions you remember. It lives in moments that don't register. You tap your card, you move on. No pause, no wait, no sense that anything significant just happened. But because Each individual spend is small enough to feel irrelevant. A few dollars here, a quick purchase there, something convenient, something routine, nothing that forces you to think twice. And your brain treats those moments differently. It doesn't process them as losing money. It processes them as continuing your day. So there's no friction, no internal signal telling you to stop, just repetition, over and over. And that repetition is what does the real work. Because when something happens frequently, your brain stops tracking it carefully. Not because it's unimportant, but because it's predictable, expected, already part of your routine. So instead of noticing the money leaving, you only notice the results later. When your balance is lower than you expected, and there's no single moment you can point to, that gap between spending and awareness is where most of your money disappears. Not in one decision, but in dozens that never felt like decisions at all. You spend in ways that match how you see yourself. Some purchases don't feel like choices, they feel like alignment. You see something, and almost instantly it makes sense for you to have it. Not because you calculated it, but because it fits. Fits how you live. It is what life is supposed to be like. It fits what you are used to. Fits the version of yourself you've been repeating. So there's no real debate, no internal back and forth. Just a quiet agreement. Yeah, that's me. And once it feels like that, the spending doesn't register as loss. It feels like consistency, like you're maintaining something, not changing anything. That's why people can earn the same amount and use money in completely different ways without either of them feeling wrong, because they're not reacting to the number. They're responding to themselves. What feels normal to them? What feels like a step down? What feels like too much or not enough? And those lines don't come from logic. They come from repetition, from what you've gotten used to over time. So your spending isn't random, it follows a pattern that stays consistent, even when your income changes, because the goal isn't always to optimize. Sometimes it's just to stay in sync with who you think you are. Up to this point, it looks like a spending problem, but it isn't. Nothing you've seen is random. Your money isn't slipping away. It's being used exactly how your current setup allows it to be used. The timing is what matters, because most of your money gets committed before you ever slow down enough to decide what you want to do with it. Not after, before. That's why earning more doesn't change much. The same patterns are still first in line. They get funded first. Everything else waits, and usually there isn't much left to wait with. So the difference isn't income, it's sequence. What gets access to your money first ends up shaping everything else. Not because it's more important, but because it happens early. If this pattern repeats once, it's easy to ignore. If it repeats every month, it starts shaping what's possible. Because each time your money gets used the same way, it leaves nothing behind to build with. Not in a dramatic way, just consistently. There's no moment where things go wrong. No single decision that stands out. Just a sequence that keeps completing itself. Income comes in. It gets matched to what already exists. And then it's gone. So nothing accumulates. Not because you never had enough at one time, but because nothing was allowed to stay. And over time, that creates a different kind of limitation. Not immediate, delayed. You don't feel it day to day. You feel it when something requires flexibility, and there isn't any. When time matters and money can't change it. When opportunities show up and everything you have is already committed elsewhere, not lost, just unavailable. So the cost isn't what you spent, it's in what never had the chance to exist, because your money was always occupied. So the issue was never that money disappears. It doesn't. it follows whatever structure is already in place. And right now, that structure runs on habits, timing, and repetition, not deliberate choice, which is why it feels like you're handling money, but nothing changes, because the outcome was already set before you got involved. Nothing here requires a complete reset. It starts earlier than that, earlier than budgeting, earlier than cutting things out. It starts at the point where your money first becomes available and deciding what gets access to it first, because once that order is set, everything else follows it. So if something about your money feels off, it probably isn't random, it's consistent, just not intentional. And if this helped you in some way or let you see your money differently, please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more videos coming your way.